Hi, my name is Abhi Asok, but I go by Abhi. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I am a data scientist. I want to say that there is no one single standard to what a data scientist can be. At the heart of it, a data scientist is somebody who looks at data of any kind and extracts patterns out of it using mathematical and statistical and other algorithmic methods. My journey is like a whole story in itself. When I was in high school, I wanted to study English literature of all things, but the society that I grew up in, it wasn't exactly the most conducive and supportive environment for something like that. Everything was like really competitive, and there was this like social push towards becoming either like an engineer or a doctor. And I knew that I couldn't definitely become a doctor. You take me to like a surgery table and I'm gonna faint. So I was pretty sure that I couldn't do that. So the only other option was engineering. So I went to school to study engineering and pure math, but I found myself not relating to either of them. Towards the end of my college, I was expected to do a one-year internship to be able to graduate. I ended up at Mu Sigma, which is basically out of Bangalore in India. When I got there, the person that I was reporting to, he told me about like machine learning, and this is cool thing, machine learning, where you like kind of start to teach algorithms how to think. That's the way he explained it. But it's a lot more nuanced than that. But it helped me sort of like get an idea of like what I was getting into. But then I started reading through. At first, like as soon as I like Googled it up and I like opened it up, I saw a lot of like mathematical equations, and I was like, I need a drink at this point. But I kept at it. I really kept at it, and I tried to understand, because I was like, I'm gonna be here for like a year, at least like 6 months minimum. So might as well like make the most out of it. I used to be like really scared of like integrals and differentials, but then I'm now reading it up with the perspective of like an application. It also like the different articles also started like talking about where all this can be used. Like pattern recognition or self-driving cars or face recognition, etc., etc. So thinking about all of that in terms of applications like that started making more sense to me. I wasn't scared of like integrals and differentials anymore. It started making sense. I was like, at some points I used to be like, oh, this is what I studied like 2 years ago in one of my courses, and I hated it back then. I probably got like a C- or something, but now it's all making sense because like I'm looking at it the way I want to look at it. In fact, my very first research paper that was published came out of that time. As I was like working on something, like an idea hit me, and I just like took out like a paper and started writing math equations and started deriving something. And at the end of it, I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe I did this. Like a year ago, I wouldn't have had anything to do with any of this, and I can't believe I did that. But it was still like the most serendipitous thing to happen to me, I guess. That's kind of like a theme of my life. Serendipity is the theme of my life in general. So I started at Harvard in mid-2017, I want to say. Halfway through Harvard, during my summer internship, I went to New York and I interned at the Mount Sinai Health System, which is one of New York's major hospital systems, which was like really interesting to see like an alternate application of data science in general that you don't typically think about. You immediately think about like, oh, how can we like make targeted ads, or how can we create like a self-driving car? But there's also like other global health and in general like environmental or like social science related applications that data science has too. And these things sort of like really opened my eyes to all the different kinds of things that data science can be used for. So then now the thing was like, okay, we need to like look for jobs. We need to apply for jobs. And I wasn't particularly really good at self-esteem at any point in my life. I'm much better now, but at that point it was like really, really terrible. So I wasn't even planning to apply to like the big wigs like Microsoft, Google, Meta, all of these places, Facebook at that time. All of these places, I wasn't even planning to apply because I'm like, what's the point? And in January, I had like an HR from Microsoft reach out, and she was like, we're about to like close our round of hiring for this year. You should apply if you'd like to. And she sent me the link and everything, and I was like, well, if somebody reached out to me, I should at least like turn in the application, right? But at the end of it came around, and it was an AI role, which is really what I wanted to do in the first place. So when the offer came around, I was like pretty clear on the fact that I was gonna go for that. And after that, I moved over to Seattle. And I've been in like a different product team at Microsoft ever since. It's been 4 years and it's been absolutely fantastic. My first day at Microsoft was definitely characterized by a lot of imposter syndrome. I walk into one of the leading tech companies in the planet, and I saw these fancy offices. I saw these like brilliant people walking around, and imposter syndromes hit me. And I was like, what am I even doing here? Like, did they like make a mistake by hiring me? I mean, I feel like I fooled them into like hiring me into this role. But one thing I realized that I was feeling imposter syndrome and everybody else was also feeling imposter syndrome. So we were all just like a pool of like introverted tech people who are just feeling imposter syndrome for each other. Right now, I'm trying to not think. I've gotten to a point where I can afford to like not think of it as a competition, but think of it as like a textbook to like learn from, you know? I have a tattoo on my forearm that says, progression, not perfection, one day at a time. And I used to be a person who used to chase perfection all the time and used to be really hard on myself if I was not perfect every step of the way. But then I realized how harmful it was for my own mental health. And it was like a change in mindset that I had to like make. And I think that attitude is really what has helped me do well in these last 4 years. I come from an artistic family, singing, dancing, writing, literature. All of these things were some things I got introduced to very early on. My currently most active hobby would be modeling. Again, serendipity, I just fell into it, and I discovered that I was good at it, and I was having really a lot of fun doing it, and I was feeling really passionate about like being better at it and everything. Modeling, again, the putting yourself in front of the camera, it's obviously putting you in like a very vulnerable spot. But the flip side of it is that once you like put yourself in that position, it increases your self-confidence and self-esteem like quite a bit. You start to feel more put together than you were before all of that, once you start gaining that experience. And when it comes to like work and when it comes to like a brand new project, that confidence sort of like oozes in for sure. Because even though the confidence was built in like an extremely different setting, you start to feel like you can do this because you've been in situations where you've been far more vulnerable than this. So it is actually like a really good addition, really good positive impact on mental health that people don't actively talk about. It's definitely helped me a lot in the past 2.5 years that I've done it. And because of that, I don't plan to stop. Plan to keep going.